It is my pleasure to be joined by Chase Coffman. Chase, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Steve. I appreciate you having me on.
Man, I appreciate you taking the time. Well, like I told you from the jump, Coach Hayes was someone that I had spoken to. Obviously, your name had come up, and I appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, of course. We got to talk a little bit before getting on this, and he was my first tight ends coach in the NFL, and really played a big part in my career. And still keep up with him today, and I know he's continuing to do great things.
Oh yeah, he has not lost any steam. He just keeps going. But I want to get into what you're doing now. But when I look at what you're able to accomplish on a football field, right? You hit the ground running as a freshman in college, which is not easy to do, particularly at tight end. And just for 4 years, you basically lit it up. So I want to get into that a little bit deeper. When you say that Coach Hayes is your first tight end college in the NFL, does any part of you show up thinking like, hey, man, All-American, Mackey Award winner, I think I know a thing or two. I put up numbers every year. How much do you have to sort of check the ego for you to be in a position to learn? Or was it even something that was on your radar at all?
No, yeah, that's a great question, and I think, I mean, if you look at it, and all the guys that have the opportunity to make it to the NFL, you're somewhat starting at square one again. I was a third round draft pick, so I think that the success that you have in college, the draft pick status, if you will, kind of comes into play as like I've done something pretty special, and I should be thrown in a little bit above where some people are. And so for me, going back to college, like you said, I jumped in pretty early on being able to contribute, and that was a system that fit me great. And then going to the NFL, praise the Lord, I had two parents that love me and that have taught me a ton of great things. And so I think that's kept me somewhat humble and, it's still being open to learning and not just thinking that, hey, I made it, nobody can touch me. But again, as a 22, 23-year-old, that stuff is easy to get to you. And I had a lot to learn because the system, especially in the NFL, for me in Cincinnati, it was a lot different. We had primarily blocking tight ends and didn't use them much in the passing game. I came from Missouri. We had a spread offense. I stood up a lot, and I was asked to do a lot more blocking than even running routes. And so there was a big learning curve for me. And a lot of technique to learn, not just go in there and give effort. And I think anybody can relate to that as, you want to do well in whatever it is that you start new into, but you may not know the best ways to do it. And so for me, Reggie Kelly, along with Coach Hayes, Reggie Kelly was a tight end in Cincinnati when I got there. I think he was going into year 9 or 10 when I got there. And really just a big brother and a mentor to me. Again, somebody that I still keep up with and that really helped me through that first year of just learning. And I didn't get to play at all my rookie year, which was a big hit to me, coming from, like you said, All-American, Mackey Award winner, all this stuff where I felt like I should be thrown in and be able to contribute right away and wanting to.
Yeah. And I did want to jump into what you're doing now, but because I want to get into more of your journey and how it relates to what you're doing now. But since you just sort of teed it up, the business side of the NFL, right? From your rookie year, you don't get a chance to play. That can easily set any young athlete back. The team's perspective on you probably is different than what it would have been had you played. And then that more or less is something that when you look at your journey to the NFL, had you gotten off on a different foot, no pun intended on the ankle injury. Do things shake out differently for you along the way? How much did
Yeah, it's
there's
easy.
sorry, what were we going to say?
No, go ahead. You got it.
Oh,
I'll answer.
just to tie it together, everything I just said, I just asked you about the mental perspective of performing on the field, but now the business
Yeah,
side of it. How did it sort of,
yeah.
how did that change or shade your experience through your time as an athlete?
I think it's still forming, my thoughts and habits and the way that I do business today. Uh, because again, like it's just, I think everybody, right, no matter if they make it to the NFL or get cut in high school, um, you get pushed out of your sport. There's very few people that get to quit on their terms, and and for me, football was something that continued to come easily, continued to get opportunity to continue to do well in high school, do well in college, make it to the NFL, and stick around for as long as I did. But I think you got to learn, look for the learning opportunities at every level. And again, going back to being a young man and having the success that I was able to have early on, sometimes everybody that makes it to the NFL, I think that your goal is to be a Hall of Famer, and make enough money to live the lifestyle that, you see or hear about or whatever. And, in reality, what kind of, you know, money knowledge, what kind of business knowledge, what kind of life experiences do you have at that age? It's not that real world, and relatable to most people. And so when you make it and then all of a sudden get cut in year two, get cut in year three, you get cut and it doesn't go the way as you planned, it's not that same game that you fell in love with as a kid. You realize the business side of it quick. And you really, even from college, you got to start looking for ways that you can use the game um, for your learning purposes, and kind of to set yourself up for after sports. And I say that, but I don't want people, especially young athletes, to take that the wrong way. As really look into Plan B, because it takes a lot, almost 100% into Plan A of becoming a professional athlete. And each year it takes a lot to make sure that you can make the team the next year. And so there's not much room to really plan for Plan B. And I think that a lot of people that plan for Plan B, the majority, I think, are at Plan B before they want to be, the more they start looking into it and taking that time away from their sport.
It's certainly a delicate balance that every pro athlete has to have. Most college athletes probably aren't even thinking about it, as you said, but knowing that that
Mm-hmm.
day's going to come where you're no longer playing. It's I think LeBron James
Mm-hmm.
said something to the effect of keep the main thing the main thing. He's one of those
Yep.
few guys that has opportunities without really having to seek them out. I'm
Yeah.
sure everyone wants a piece of him, but if you're not
Mm-hmm.
that guy,
Oh
to
yeah.
be able to be planting
Mm-hmm.
those seeds, cultivating the relationships you need to, I would imagine it's easier now more than ever. But if you're not thinking about it, then you're not going to grow anything.
Yeah, and I think you really hit it on the head with the cultivating the relationships. I think that's something that's pretty easy to do, um, while you're still putting 100% into the game, and making the main thing the main thing. Now LeBron's on a level that most are not. Another person that comes to mind is Bobby Wagner with the Seahawks. I was able to play with him for a short time, and also just kept up with the things that he's doing outside of football, and setting himself up. And he's an amazing player and has opportunities that the majority don't, and also money to look into opportunities that the majority don't. But when you are able to surround yourself with people that you can trust, and you do have a little bit of time, I think there's an opportunity. I mean, LeBron started his I Promise school, something that is great, and giving back. And I don't know how involved he is with that, but I imagine that he's surrounded himself with people that run it, that put on the day to day. And he does his part and continues to keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've hinted at it a couple times now, but you are currently a financial advisor, and
Mm-hmm.
everything we just said, I think shapes this question where the business side in a way that few ever see, as one of the few NFL players, the 20 some odd thousand ever to have ever played. And on top of that, the importance of cultivating the relationships, having that trust, that team around you. You put yourself in a position where in this next phase of your life, you can be one of those integral pieces for someone else's team as they look to essentially have a coach to get them on the right path to live the life that they want to live.
Yeah. And one of the biggest things that I continue to see is actions speak louder than words. You can have the hoorah guy that's, saying, I'm the biggest, baddest out there. But when it comes time to actually perform, are they performing? And there's some guys that can do both. Some women in business, in sports as well. And that's, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be the guy that's just, hey, I played football. I know business. I know, this and that. I've experienced some money. I've experienced some things that people haven't got the experience to. There's also a lot of people that have experienced way more than me and experienced more money than me, and stuff that you can never be at the top.
There's always a bigger fish.
Always a bigger fish. But like you said, I've gotten into financial advising now. That's something that I felt as a Christian and believing in Jesus, that I've been given this opportunity to have a head start with the money that I was able to make, with the experience that I was able to have, and a platform. And as I kind of got towards the end of my career, was speaking with a mentor that said, hey, like, as you have more and more time, look into taking over your own finances, because I had kind of thrown out there to him, maybe I want to be a financial advisor. And he said, well, just continue looking at options, and while you're doing it, take over your own finances. Here's some books to read. Here's some things to look at, about investing, about planning. And as I got more and more into it and looking into my own situation, the advisor that I had used throughout my career didn't do some of the best things for me and my wife. And I felt like, man, that's ultimately my fault for not knowing enough. I took that harder on myself than, like, this guy screwed up for me. And that's, with that, and seeing that, people are always going to be dealing with money, and there's always going to be a need for this. I've had the experience that I've had, and kind of going back to college, and the success that I had there, and maybe the opportunity to make enough money to never work again in my life. I see some guys, and especially younger, thought to myself, what the heck? Why is this guy getting a contract? Like, he's no better than me, and he's making $30 million, on his next deal. Like, why couldn't that have been me? And I really believe, because God's given me an experience and the right support system to help others in this next phase of life. I don't believe if I would have got a $30 million contract, whatever $1 million contract, and not had to have worked, would I have pursued this?
Yeah, right. The journey certainly shapes, Not that it's you're a Bobby Wagner or you're not, but the different, because there's just so many nuances along the way that will push you one way or another. I think that it probably worked out perfectly that you had things fall the way that they did, so that you are in a spot where you can do this
Yep.
when you very easily couldn't have.
Yeah, and I mean, looking into how financial advisors work and the time that it takes to really be successful in this, it's a long cycle, it's a long process, and I wanted to learn more about money. I want to be able to help people, and I want to do it the right way. And praise the Lord, again, I've been able to have the opportunity to have a pretty good head start in making a good chunk of money early in my career, playing football and living frugally and saving and being smart with it, so that I don't have to maybe push or do things that aren't in the best interest of clients. I can do it the right way. I can set back and learn, and the group that I end up going with, I really love our model of a team model, and we have one book of business where everybody draws a salary from it. And I know there's opportunities to I guess make more and do better, maybe as an individual, but coming from sports, I love the team model. And also being new into this, I'm still less than 2 years in, I wanted anybody that wants to be a client of mine and ours to know that you don't have to just trust my expertise or lack of expertise. I have a whole team that is still vested in each client, and I get to learn about the people that they're bringing in and their situations. So I get a lot more looks than maybe some advisors would, getting into this brand new. And it really is all dependent on your coaches, right? Like who's bringing you along, and are they doing it the right way?
It's everything. It's absolutely everything. How much your coach knows, and I think another big piece is your own personal moral compass, which thankfully that seems to be tightly tuned in. Your heart's in the right spot. But lastly, the team piece. Well, outside of coaches, team is so important because your perspective is just that. But if you're working with someone that had a completely different upbringing, and there's multiple people where each has their own unique voice, I mean, that's how you get creative solutions. That's how you continue to innovate. And it's not just an echo chamber of let's do the same thing every time for the same client.
Yeah, completely. I mean, that is exactly it. And as I get older, kind of seeing that, so something that I pray for every day is wisdom and discernment. Uh, but kind of seeing that, like you said, everybody's come from a different background, and on a football team or athletics especially, once you get into a college locker room, once you get into an NFL locker room, there's people, I mean, all walks of life, every different race, a lot of different religions, um, and it's like, what, like, again, actions speak louder than words. When it comes to Sunday or game day, whenever that is for you, are you doing what's in the best interest of the team? And did you prepare the way you needed to do that up until that game? And if not, then you know what, I can't count on you. If you did, then you know what, like it doesn't matter. And going back to perspective, um, there's a lot of people that me and my upbringing look at and maybe say, like, golly, what in the world are they doing? Don't they know that that's wrong? And for them, they look at me and say some of this, that same thing about some of the stuff that I do. And it's not my job to judge how they got to that point. It's my job to, if I have the opportunity, listen and provide my perspective. Again, like you said, that brings learning, that brings the opportunity to bring creative opportunities to the table. If you're willing to speak your side and do it in a way that is respectful, and have that conversation with somebody that hopefully is doing the same, so that you can both get a little better perspective, learn a little bit more, and hopefully come to the win-win solution, right? Like, that's what we all want, and we all need each other. We can't do it on our own.
Exactly. But Chase, I did just want to ask, because you had a chance to play with so many different unique players in the NFL, so many great in college for that matter, so many great coaches. When you think about running your life now and the business person that you want to be, do you have certain coaches, players, or even phrases that can you pinpoint anything that you really still carry with you today? Just certain things you might have picked up along the way. And I know that's a very vague question, but does anything pop to mind?
So there's one thing in particular, but before I say that, there is so many, and so many pop up in different situations, right? And one thing that I love about like this podcast setting, and the asking questions, is, as opposed to speaking in front of a group, is that it brings up things that I may have not have been thinking about in the moment. And so that's kind of where like you mentioned, the coach aspect of things comes out, and what they've said, and how they've said it in different situations, I think, comes out. But the biggest thing that I always go back to is a Bible verse that my brother sent me. This was early in I can't remember if it was in my college career, early in my NFL career, but had been through an injury or something at the time, and he sent me this Bible verse. It was Galatians 6:9, and it says, "Do not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time you will reap a harvest if you do not give up." And that's just a continual reminder to me. I mean, continue doing the right things, continue to be consistent in the small things, even if it doesn't look like it'll pay off today, this week, this month, maybe even this year. But continue to do those things, because just like the business that I'm in now, financial advising and compound interest, right? Like, that's what the eighth wonder of the world. And the opportunity to see that when it actually pays off at the end, and there's this huge chunk of money, and you just, like, golly, I've just been putting this little bit away, this little bit away, this little bit away. And if you start that early enough, and create that habit early, whatever it is, at the end of your life, and it takes a lifetime to see, you'll reap the benefits if you do not give up. And so I just continue that through all kinds of tough situations that I go through.
That's powerful, man. I mean, you can apply that anywhere to any good that you're doing.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, the same with bad things, right? Like, you're going to reap the consequences of negative, bad habits. And you'll find, I mean, you don't know until you know. I had a coach in Atlanta, one of my special teams coach in Atlanta. He said, you better get in this room and know what you're supposed to be doing. I was a backup most of my career as a tight end, and on special teams. It's no wonder I made it 8 seasons. But I knew what I was supposed to do, and I hopefully gained the trust of the coaches to be counted upon if my number was called. And this is what this coach would say, is that, like, you got to know what you're doing, because you're gonna get exposed. It's just a matter of when and where, and when that time comes, we'll see on film, because every play is filmed. We'll see on film if you knew what you were supposed to do or you didn't.
Not only is every play filmed, but from how many different angles? I mean,
Oh yeah, all kinds of different angles, and you can argue, and then all of a sudden, the next angle comes up, and you're like, oh man, Yep, they got me there.
And you said that you were a backup most of your career. Well, okay, you played behind Pro Bowler Jermaine Gresham. You go
Mhm.
to go to Atlanta. Tony Gonzalez was there. Oh, he was
Mhm.
pretty good.
Yeah.
When it's the Seahawks, Jimmy Graham's on that team, and he
Mhm.
goes down, which is why they bring you in.
Mhm.
But Delaney Walker at the
Yeah.
Titans, who is still playing even though he's a free agent right now. I
Yeah.
mean, it's one thing to say you're a backup, but like you're behind perennial Pro Bowl studs. It's kind of hard to stand out there.
Yeah.
Um, Not that
Mm.
you have anyone in particular that you feel any which way about, but when you're around guys that continually are considered the best in the league, how much did that make your life easier in terms of learning from them, or how much more difficult did it make it because you were behind a stud?
Yeah, both. It was great to, I think that you always have, again, no matter what you're in, right? Look at where you want to go and find the people that are already there. So for me, which was really cool, I grew up in Kansas City being a Chiefs fan. And Tony Gonzalez was the man. And I got to play with him for his last 2 years in Atlanta. And that was the first place where I really felt like I fit in offensively and used to my best skill set. Uh, well, somewhat because I molded my game after Tony Gonzalez. and um, and just looking at the things he did, how he went about his work, how he went about studying, how he went about interacting with his teammates and his quarterback and all those things, and trying to see where does that fit in my game, because we're not the same. We can be similar, but we're not the same. And again, with Delaney Walker, what's he doing that I could be doing a little bit differently. Now I'm 6'6" and not as fast as he is. He's 6'3" and a lot faster than me. And what parts of his game can I implement into mine? Um, and just continue trying to learn from whoever you can, and going back to that and seeing, I tried this. Is this something I should continue implementing, continue on, or is that not the best thing for me? And taking that now into financial advising, into my walk with God, into my marriage, into my being a father of three, um, and seeing who's ahead of me, and what can I do to implement what they're doing into my life? Do I have room for that? Am I already doing that? Yeah, just continuing to look at that, continuing to diagnose that, and continue to trying to learn.
Never-ending journey.
Yeah.
There's always going to be another person to
Mhm.
look at. A/B testing different strategies. I mean,
Yep.
it never stops.
Yeah. And to add one more thing, Tony Gonzalez, as I continued to play and get opportunities, every away game, there's the TVs in the back of the seats on the airplanes, and all the movies are unlocked and everything. You have your food and your drinks, and it's a lot different than a regular flight, and it's pretty cool. And I enjoyed watching movies on the flight. And one thing Tony Gonzalez would always say, and I've implemented it a lot more in my life now, but turn that stuff off. That's not making you any smarter. bring a good book, and grow your knowledge, which I've started reading a lot more towards the end of my career, and continue to look at guys like him as he's transitioned out of football.
Sure. Now, Tony obviously goes down as one of the best to ever do it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
like we've already said in one way or another, so many guys don't get to leave on their terms.
Mm-hmm.
By the time your journey with the Colts is over, how long did it take for you to come to terms with like this is the end of the road? There isn't anything else. How does that
Yeah.
process go for you in terms of just knowing when you have to hang it up, and then ultimately deciding to go down the financial advising path?
Yeah. So again, for me, I was lucky enough to start making enough money and being smart with it to give myself a buffer. So like I didn't, once I started getting cut, it wasn't golly, I just need a paycheck and I need to go get a job now. And again, the majority of guys are going to be in that boat where you're not going to have enough money to retire and never do anything again. But to build up a buffer for yourself so you can really see like what do I like, what do I not like, what opportunities are there for me, and who do I know that can give me those opportunities. So for me, I always after I don't know, probably the third or fourth time getting after I felt like I had got cut it to the point where this might be it. I said, you know what, I'll give myself one full season of continuing to, if it's still in my heart to play, I'll give myself one full season to continue staying in shape, continue doing the things that I've done since a kid, really, to make sure that if an opportunity comes up, if I get called in the middle of camp, if I get called in the middle of the season, that I will be ready. I'll give myself one season to continue that. And after I got released from the Colts the second time, the last time, I continued through that season and the 2017-18 season, staying in shape and staying ready. Now, during that time, I started meeting with some people and seeing what other opportunities are out there. Volunteered at my old high school, helping out with their football and basketball teams, and really becoming more a part of the community that I lived in. And wanted to ultimately retire from football and start my next career, not knowing that would be for sure financial advising yet. And so I would encourage, everybody's different, but I would encourage if you're able to give yourself that buffer, and it's still in your heart to play. I know a couple guys that I worked out with in off seasons or played with that are still trying to get on, or waiting for the XFL to start back up, or some of these other leagues that it's just an opportunity to play the game that they love. And if it's still in your heart and you're able to take care of your responsibilities financially, keep going after it.
Yeah. So, it seems like it wasn't that tough for you to be, and maybe that's more or less because you came kind of numb to it from getting cut, and the business side maybe kind of just dulled the feeling of love that you had for the game.
Mm-hmm.
So that being considered, when you look at the NFL career that you had and the full head of steam you came in with, this was probably a pretty tough question, but I mean, do you feel like it was everything that like it could have been? Do you have it, positive feelings, negative feelings towards what you actually were able to do, chomping at the bit to get out the field, but maybe not getting out there as much as you want?
Oh yeah, and my answer to that is both. I mean, it again from the perspective you look at it with, right? Like looking back from where I am now, like man, what an opportunity! That was my dream as a child to be an NFL player. And I got to experience 6 different NFL cities where I got to live there, places that I may or may not vacation to. And during a vacation, you don't really get to see that much, but I got to live in there and really experience these organizations and, leadership from the top down, from ownership, from GMs, from head coaches, position coaches, offensive coordinators, special teams coordinators, and see that on 6 different teams. And there's a couple other places where I had tryouts or went to a camp on a tryout basis. I got to see a little snippet of that, but in the moment, I was just like, man, like I just want to play, and I think I still do think there's a lot of meat left on the bone for the potential of my career. But going back to earlier when I spoke about, like if I had made enough money to live an easy, comfortable life, and not have to work again, would I be doing this? Would I be pushing myself to get better in other aspects of my life, and I don't know the answer to that question. Um, Only in a different universe, right? but but I'm here, right? And you can only control what you can control. And I go back to this point in my career with the Falcons. This was my 4th year, and I was on the practice squad and behind Tony Gonzalez, and like I said, being in a spot where I really felt like I fit in the NFL and I could have a future. Um, and coaches telling me, "Hey, you're killing it in practice. You're going to get an opportunity. It's not if, but when. You know, football is 100% injury rate guaranteed, and and when that time comes and you've prepared, you'll be ready to step in and take plays or fill in, or whatever that is." And one of the tight ends in front of me got hurt, I think in week 9, 10, 11, something like that. And I was just like, you know what, here's my chance. They've been telling me this, and I'm ready to get brought up. And the next day, so I was at home on the practice squad. We were playing in New Orleans, and I didn't travel with the team that week. And I'm looking at my wife like, yeah, like here it is. Like, they're gonna call me in tomorrow and sign me. And the next day on Monday, I got a call from 2 different guys that I had played with, one in Cincinnati, one in Tampa, and they both said, "Hey, they're bringing me in for a workout. Come up to the facility, say what's up. It'd be good to see you." I'm just thinking to myself, like, are you freaking kidding me? Like these guys aren't eligible for practice squad, so they're not bringing them in to work them out for practice squad. And I've basically been told this is my spot, and I was pissed off. But get to that night and have time to start thinking about it more and more, and just talking over with my wife. We were laying in bed praying before bed, and I said, you know what, God, if this is all you have for me for the NFL is playing out this season on practice squad, or even being cut and never playing again, like I'm just going to giving all that I have with the opportunity that I have, and controlling what I can control. I can't control who the GM brings in, who the head coach brings in, what decisions they make. I can only control what I'm doing to prepare myself, and put myself in the best spot to succeed, and then let them make that decision from there, and be fine with it, because there is so much opportunity out there if you just have the perspective of, you know what, just don't quit. Give yourself every opportunity to say, like, Chase has been doing this, and this. Let's just give him a chance. If they said Chase is, he's late to meetings, he doesn't hustle, he doesn't really know his plays, why would we give him the opportunity to play on Sunday? It's not happening. So do what you can control.
Absolutely, man. In perspective is everything. So when you think about things and frame things the right way, it lets you live a healthier life where you can go on and not have any or minimize any negative feelings you could have, so that you can go be productive and not be hindered by anything.
Yeah.
Well, man, I can't thank you enough for recounting some of your journey here. I just want to get you out of here on this little thing called the gauntlet. I just got a couple quick hitter questions, man.
All right.
Chase, what's most important, having the number one offense or the number one defense?
I'm an offensive guy. Offense.
Fair enough.
And from Kansas City, where the Chiefs have a pretty good one.
They can put up some points here and there. Favorite football memory when you look back on it all?
Favorite football memory. I would say it's hard for me to have favorites in anything, and my wife will tell you that too if you ask her. But I'd have to say winning a state championship my senior year, with my brother as quarterback, and my dad being a volunteer on the coaching staff, and my youngest brother being a ball boy.
That's awesome. That is special. Now, did you have any pregame rituals that you stuck to?
Yeah. So a lot of the time I would just put a towel over my head and just kind of fall asleep in the locker room. Not fall asleep, but close my eyes and just visualize and pray. Um, I mean, if anybody that's played sports, you get some butterflies and antsy before games, and that was my way of just calming down and really focusing before the start.
Got it. Now, what's most important in winning? Is it the players or is it the scheme?
Players, for sure, the players. Um, and a lot of coaches will tell you, even if the as an offensive player, even if the defense is lined up to stop you, right? You can, if everybody does their job and everybody's on the same page, there's a lot of good that you can do just by executing.
Definitely. Now, last one, and I think it's most important, considering everything you were able to accomplish. What is the best piece of advice that you'd give to a young student athlete that wants to maybe one day have anything close to the career trajectory that you've had?
Yeah, so that's a good one. And number one, going back to that Bible verse that I had, Galatians 6:9. Do not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time you'll reap a harvest if you do not give up. Don't give up, and keep doing the good things that have gotten others there, right? And that your coaches are telling you to do. And then number two, something that my dad told me before I reported to camp in Tampa. This is in between. So I had left Cincinnati, and Greg Schiano was the head coach in Tampa Bay. This was his first year, and everybody's, I figured everybody's kind of on a new footing, new coaching staff, opportunity to, show what you're doing, and everybody, kind of be on the same level. And I was getting quite a bit of reps, and they signed Dallas Clark, another, maybe Hall of Fame tight end, right at the end of OTAs. So my reps went, from here to about nothing. And before reporting back to camp after OTAs, I'm just thinking they're going to cut me out. And it's just, why am I even reporting to camp? This is stupid. I don't have a chance. And my dad said, well, even if there's a 1% chance, are you going to take it? Like, do you love it? Do you love it enough that you're going to work hard to, maybe make that 1% chance, the opportunity that gets you there, right? I think everybody's probably seen Dumb and Dumber, so you're saying there's a chance, well then I'm going to take it, right? If you love the game, and speaking to people that aren't in athletics, if you love whatever you're doing and you love it enough, like if there's just, the slightest chance that you can succeed in it, give everything you got. and don't quit until that door is closed and locked.
And that advice came from someone that knew a thing or two about playing in the NFL. So it's
yeah, and to kind of recap that, my dad had an 11-year career in the NFL and is in the Green Bay Packers Hall of Fame. So he knew a little bit. I praise the Lord again for solid parents.
Yep, I can't do anything to replace that. I mean, talk about starting off on the right foot. Man, it's been awesome to hear a little bit more about you, your story, what you're doing now. It's awesome, man, and I wish you the best of luck as you continue to get deeper and deeper into the financial advising world.
I appreciate it, Steve, and thank you again for having me on. And feel free to reach out whenever.